Hello, everyone. This is your host, Carrie Logan at Master the Upper Rooms. And today I have a special guest. Today I have with me Darlene, and she is an intuitive, a cosmic mediator, a medium, and an author. And she has over 35 years experience in assisting people searching for answers that are seeking and needing clarity and finding their purpose for what was, what is, and what can be in areas of health, relationships, spirituality, career, past lives, cosmic connection, and mediumship. So I'd like to welcome you, Darlene, to my podcast. How are you today?
I am wonderful today. I feel great, and thank you for having me. I look forward to this conversation.
So do I. So, the very first question I want to ask you, and I'm sure a lot of people are curious to know, is can you explain the idea that the body has its own consciousness?
So this is what I found in being a medical intuitive, is that a lot of times the blockages are because the body in some way, whether that is something that's happened to us in trauma physically, or so that could be abuse, that could be an accident, that could be any of those harmful places that the body would consider invasive or compromised. And what happens is it develops its own way and sometimes resistance to the person and whatever they're doing, right? So you may be taking supplements, you may be taking medication, your symptoms start to emerge in some way where nothing is working. And a lot of times it's because you're in disharmony with your body. So going back, and I encourage people to do the Ho'oponopono in a journal, like if you've had multiple amounts of accidents or traumas or issues that resulted in the body, surgeries, any of those, is to go back and really coming from the heartfelt place, is to acknowledge that to the body. I'm sorry that this happened to you. Please forgive me for not being able, speaking as either your present day age or your higher self. I'm sorry that I couldn't affect that. I'm sorry that I couldn't protect you. Okay. And then I love you and thank you. Thank you for being with me these many years, right? It creates a different energy and a vibration with the body. And so the consciousness of the body comes and is more willing to move forward with you in whatever modality you have of healing. But it has a different, like when I work with people, I'm tapped into their innate wisdom, which is their body's idea or knowing or knowledge or wisdom of what has happened to this person and what is going on, not only medically, but what is going on in their life in the emotional level that impacts the body. And when you go to that level and you access the innate wisdom, you find out a very different idea of what's going on with the person because the body has a whole way of recording everything as it was. Our minds tend to put it in categories, or we think of a certain thing and then we question ourselves, well, maybe that really didn't happen or whatever, but the body knows. So honoring that, working with that place of what is really the truth of your experiences, tracking them to find out where the origin is, speaking to the body and guidance. They're both usually in some form of connection, the person's guidance and their physical body, because there's no restrictions in the physical body of what is the truth, right? It's that part of our innate wisdom, it's part of our brain that takes in that. So the body I've seen really needs to be brought in to connect to the person because it splits. It can split from too much trauma, too much anything that has affected it, and it doesn't trust the person.
No, exactly. It's kind of like a disconnect
Yeah.
can happen, and that's why it's really important for people to that have experienced trauma or feel this numbness or disconnection to learn how to be curious and
Mm.
connect with their body and connect to the sensations. And the easiest way is, like, well, what am I feeling? And going over a list of emotions of this is what I'm feeling and where do you feel it inside your body?
Hmm.
And can you get, sometimes I say, can you give it a shape? Can you give it a color? And what does that color represent?
Hmm.
And if it's a negative representation, well, if you could transmute it or change it to a more healing, soothing, comforting, supportive, loving color, what would that be? And is the body willing to accept that?
Right.
Yeah. And it's kind of like I say, think about it as if you're talking to somebody else, but it's really your body that you're connecting with and tapping in with. Because I remember working with a gentleman about pain. We're always in constant pain. And at the end of the hypnotherapy recording, he said, "Oh my God, my pain shifted from the other side of my body." And I said, "Well, that's emotional pain. That's not physical pain.
Right.
That's emotional." And he was like, "Oh my God, that's so fascinating." And I said, "Okay, so we've got to connect to that emotional pain. And what does it have to say to you? Communicate with it as if it's a
Mhm.
person and form that relationship because it's got a message there for you. It's been trying
Yeah.
to get your attention. You've just been ignoring it, fighting against it, probably cursing at it and swearing at it and hating it.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's not going to move with that kind of energy, right?
No, it's not going to move when you're being mean and negative to it. It's trying to talk to you,
Yeah.
and it's part of you. So embrace it as you would a friend because you can't trade in your body for a newer model or a younger version or a different one. This is the one we have until we die.
Right. And, as you bring up that point, it's about tracking
Yes,
that pain level. What age did this show up? He could be screaming and yelling and angry at a 5-year-old because
yes,
that's where it stems from. And that's the other way that the body works. Like if we have something that's happened to us that's been detrimental or traumatic, dramatic, something where we had emotional level and we didn't handle it or it wasn't handled with others. When you're young enough, could have had a death in the family that you weren't involved in some way. I've run across that with people is that, the mother died. They find out 3 days later that the mom died because they were told something else, and it just doesn't bode well with the body. So if you don't handle things, then it moves into the subconscious level. And the subconscious level comes out in a dream state, or it comes out in, the daydreaming of, oh, yeah, I remember when that happened to me 3 months ago or 6 months ago. And then if you don't handle it then it moves into body. And once it gets into body, then there's symptoms, and then eventually it becomes some kind of illness or disease.
right,
That is that dis-ease place,
correct.
right? So tracking that back, no matter what level they are, disease or illness or just symptoms, tracking that back to where is the origin of that? Not only in this lifetime, because it could be in other lifetimes too. Like it's surfaced because of something that happened present day, that it's not just when you were 5 or 6 or 10 or 12. It could have a past life attached to it.
Yes, and that's a really hard concept for some people to grasp
Mhm.
or understand. But in the training that I did by, I'm pretty sure, hopefully I get the name right, Michael Newton, there's
Yep.
been known people that have migraines in this lifetime, and in their past life, they committed suicide with a gun.
Yep.
I worked with one lady when I was doing my training in life between lives and past life regression that kept encountering car accidents, car accidents. I mean, the girl was, I think, just 20 and already had 4 car accidents. The first one, she was riding a bike. The second one, she was a passenger. The third one, it was her driving. I mean, it was nuts. But when I did the work, that's how I found out she died in a car accident. And
Mm.
I had to literally go in and clear that experience for her And
Right.
now she's in her 30s and she hasn't had a car accident since.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fascinating how we are one just big stream, one just line from many of our soul level lifetimes, and how they interrelate and they get triggered. Our DNA can unwrap,
Yeah.
and expose something when you're in some kind of emotional crisis.
Yeah. Well, and there's so many books out there. I remember the very first book that I read and I loved. It's called Feelings Buried Alive, Never Die.
Right.
Fabulous book.
It is.
Fabulous book.
Hmm.
And then, and then I found the Louise Hay, Heal Your Body. But the one that I loved the most after that was The Secret Language of Your Body,
Hmm.
how she taps into divine infinite intelligence and really talks to it and uses visualization techniques
Yes.
to clear the trapped emotions that are stored within your body.
Yeah, I was working with a client who had been, she was in her late 60s, maybe early 70s, but she was bleeding. And she had been bleeding for like 6 months. And so she came, she's on the table. I was doing hands-on work with her. And it came up a past life of where she was mutilated. And she did it on the table with working the anger and the rage and the fear and all of that with whoever was doing that. And the next day, the bleeding stopped. So, it's always fascinating for me to see that. Like you do your work, but
Yeah.
then when there's something that, is so profound that, my goodness, it stopped. It's always both exciting and amazing that that's how we really work. It's always intriguing for me.
It is. Well, I like to say it's kind of mind blowing because it shows you how a lot of this stuff has, we've been in the dark. We've been in
Hmm.
the dark for so long. And some people are like, well, how do you do this and how do you do that? And the better way I kind of explain it is all the wisdom and all the tools that a lot of us need is all up here. It's like
Yeah.
this highway. You want to tap into anybody, you can tap into it. It's
Right.
all here available access, for us. And we're here to learn and grow and thrive and be the best, versions of ourself. Find
Right.
and discover our authentic self. What is our calling? And and really having what I would like to say unconditional happiness. And sometimes that unconditional happiness means letting go people that are really toxic for us, or letting go that belief that, well, I need to do this, well, my parents won't let me do this or approve of this or allow me to live this way or have this job or live this lifestyle. And the bottom line comes down to it's your life, not your parents, not society, not your religion, not your culture. This is your life. And how do you want to live it? And what's going to make you happy? Not what other people say this is what happiness is.
Right.
What's going to make you happy?
And
Yeah.
a lot of people don't know that.
No, a lot of people don't know that. And that unhappiness, all those unhappy feelings can get stuck and trapped within your body. And like you said earlier, over time, it creates dis-ease
Yeah.
within the body. And when you go back and you look at the probable cause in, that book, Secret Language of Your Body, and you read it, it's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
A lot of people they have no idea. I remember one time I developed a fibroid cyst
Hmm.
and the doctors wanted to, cut it out and remove it. And I said, no, I need to look this up. And when I looked up the probable cause, it was like bingo. I knew exact moment of what happened, who said what, because it was a blow to my feminine ego, what the
Uh-huh.
person said. And so I did exactly like what you did. I did the Honopono Ono. I connected with my body. I forgave myself. I forgave the person. I forgave the situation. I forgave all the energy around it and within me and without of me. And I thanked my body for allowing me to communicate and connect with it. I said I was sorry. And when I went back to the doctor, it was gone.
Yeah, they are always they can't explain that. Doctors have said this for such a long time.
Yeah.
You know, the blood work will be something, and they'll do their work that they need to do. They'll go back, their blood work changes. They haven't quite gotten, at least some doctors haven't quite gotten to the place of accepting that it's not a miracle, it's a fact.
Yeah.
You address the issues that created the issue of health or lack of health, and things can change.
Yeah. No, no, they can change. So with the next question is, what are your core beliefs or guiding principles? Because I'm curious to know that.
I believe that everything happens for a reason. I believe that there is no right or wrong. There is no good or bad. Um, I stay more in the neutral place because when I work with people, I don't have my stuff out front. So it's all very much happening in the moment. And I believe there's a higher power. I work with the field a lot because that is the energy that's around us that holds everything, including the Akashic records. It holds our potential, it holds our possibilities. And I believe that humanity is, it's worth saving. It's worth its history and understanding the truth of the history of humans. And and I will do whatever I need to do to help them to become more whole.
I like how you said the good and bad because I look at it is instead of it being, let's say, a problem or something I need to fight against, it really is an opportunity
Mm-hmm.
to explore
Mm-hmm.
and to be curious. And a lot of times especially when I experienced the dark night of the soul, and I did not know why the hell I manifested this or this was happening in my reality, I had to just make peace with it. I
Yeah.
had to, like you said, I had to stay neutral because I had no control over it. I was literally powerless and in a messed up situation. But now when I look back at it, I can see why. I can understand why I had that experience and what were the lessons I needed to learn. And and it taught me a lot. And that's the hard part, I think, for a lot of people is they can get stuck in that victim mentality
Mm-hmm.
and they can get stuck in blame and and sometimes people can even be invested in their story because they get something positive out of it.
Right. They get attention or they get
Yes.
whatever that is. Um, it's
Or they're
it's
getting a need met that they never got met before, but now they're getting it met.
right. I believe that we have a lot of patterns that we hold on to. Victim is one of them. Me, the narcissism is another. They become very steeped, and that's the only way that it is. And then it breeds contempt, it breeds division.
Yeah.
We see that a lot worldwide
Yes.
now, of how we're going to manage that. How do we stay firm in our own sovereignty while we're going through these changes of becoming more, people say, awake, more centered, more spiritual beings? How do we access our gifts and talents in a way that might have been hidden or robbed or taken from us in some way as a youngster? We're in that time of bringing all of that forward, but we have to learn how to let go of all the things that hold us back,
Yeah,
you know?
100%.
Yeah, our perception about ourselves and others, I think, is core to what holds us back that needs to be cleared and cleansed and reevaluated and healed.
Yeah. And I mean, and it's like I interviewed someone just recently about forgiveness. And even if we experience something that, let's say, could be considered unforgivable, you can still forgive it. And and what and I actually I did I I did it myself around a subject and around a person that did something that would be considered unforgivable. I mean, I
Mhm.
would consider that person a monster, and my son would agree also that person was clearly a monster. And but once I forgave it, forgave the person, all of that, and said, "Hey, this was a lesson, for me." I I got the answer that I needed, later on, and it was for me. It was very healing
Hmm.
and rewarding. And now, and the best way to put it is now when I see that person's face or I see their image, it doesn't bother me. I don't
Right.
care. I mean, the trigger is gone, and I'm just like, oh, thank God. Yes, I forgave that person and all of that. But do I want them in my life anymore? Heck no.
No.
That's okay.
Right. Right. And some people can't get to the forgiveness.
Right,
So what I will ask them to do is, can they accept the person for who they are?
right.
If you can't forgive them because it's so horrendous, someday you may, but if you
Yeah,
can't right now, can you accept them for who they are?
yes,
And does that alleviate the judgment? Does that alleviate anything? Sometimes it's just not about being heard. Like you feel blocked into because whatever they did, you have no recourse.
yeah,
So working with visualizations to provide a recourse because our brain believes that we've done whatever we're visualizing. So it's not about, you make it up and it'll be real to the brain and it does alleviate stress. So, that or writing or something that's creative to move the energy through so that forgiveness may be underneath, but at least you're getting rid of the tension
right.
that you're holding.
Yes, or that trigger response that
Right.
that you experience. And it's no, and I love how you said about the visualization thing because they did a study on, like, say, six people went to the gym to try to just build their bicep. And then
Hmm.
they had the other six people sit on a couch and visualize and feel tightening that muscle, you're lifting that weight. Well,
Yeah.
even the people sitting on the couch gained some muscle mass when they measured their bicep. And it's like, no, we are amazing, human beings. The things that we can we can do is just incredible. I mean, there's the book, The Biology of Belief by Bruce Lipton.
Right. Right.
That's a fabulous book. I mean, there even Joe Dispenza talks about ourselves. And when we think negative, hateful thoughts, it because our body is made up of water, and there's that other book, The Power of Water, we are
Mhm.
literally polluting our vessel with all
Right.
this anger and hate and fear. And we have the potential to reverse that and fill our body with happy cells, loving cells, supporting cells that support the body instead of create disease within the body.
Yeah. Eventually we become like a toxic emotional waste dump.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. But I tell people start small because I remember one time I was working with a lady that had arthritis and was
Mm,
so angry with hated just was such an angry person. And when I opened the book, by Louise Hayes, and I read the affirmation, I looked at her in the face and I said, I can't say this affirmation. And she's like,
yeah.
why? I'm like, well, you just told me you hate yourself, and they want me to say I love myself.
Mm,
You're not congruent. You're not ready. But what if we said, I'm making peace with my body right now, and I
mhm.
accept my body the way that it is.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to be kind and gentle to my body.
Hmm.
And when I used different language, she was like, yes, I could say that. Yes, I could go
Yeah.
there. And I said, that's the thing that's the most positive, because if I'm going to say an affirmation that doesn't align with you, your brain's going to reject it. It's a
Yeah.
waste of time.
Yeah, and you set up being untruthful to your body, so then it becomes more distant.
Yes.
Like, yeah, 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 that's true, right. Uh-huh. You know, um, the biggest thing I think that people work with, and I speak from this from experience as well, is forgiving of self.
Yes. Oh, 100%.
Because that guilt or shame or whatever has been lodged in our minds, in our emotional body, and our physical body, plays out over and over and over again, and it's how do you, there was something that in my experience, in my guidance system, um, they said when these negative thoughts come in, to fill yourself with the light of love, because love was hard for me. I never heard it growing up. It had a different meaning to me. So when people would say, oh, just fill yourself with love or think of your heart opening, never made much sense to me, right? But filling with light, I could do that,
Yeah.
right? And so that felt like it changes, it shifts that when you get into those places of self-condemnation, where you just know that you've done something that you wish you would have done differently, or
Yeah.
how you hurt somebody or any of that, is that ability or that intention to fill with light and watch it go. Watch the consciousness or the connection to whatever that is, watch it be alleviated.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes like I visualized when I connect in with my body of, are there any holes?
Uh-huh.
Like any, and I kind of see like Swiss cheese.
Mm-hmm.
And then I call upon that light, please fill those holes. And any, information that's stored in there, just fill it with forgiveness, fill it with blessing, fill it, with strength and courage and acceptance. And and I also ask too, that it keeps the the information that I need, because there's always lessons. There's
Mm-hmm.
always, there's positive information sometimes that's in there that we need to explore before, let's say, you're going to clear it.
Yes.
Yeah. And so diving into that is really important. And that's why curiosity is, I say, is better than being demanding and direct. I need this now, because
Right.
yeah, you got to think of it. I say approach it as if you're approaching a small child who's
Which most,
apprehensive, yeah,
right.
apprehensive and scared and
Yeah.
doesn't know what's going on because you've had it stuck in the closet and you've been ignoring it for how many years?
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden you're here saying, "Hey, come on out." And they're just like, "Well, wait a minute." I mean, I'd
Yeah.
be that way too, like, "Hey, wait a minute."
Yeah.
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 And so that's why I tell people you might have to do it more than once because there can be parts of you that don't take you serious.
Mm-hmm.
And if you know anything about like internal family
Family
systems,
systems. Right.
yeah, there is a spokesperson and there could be other parts that are connected to that one that are behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And they're sitting on the fence. And if you really want to be whole, you've got to welcome all of them and let them know you can come in now or anytime later in the future. But I welcome you all. I love you all. Please forgive me, for
Right.
this misconception. And you can even give it a new job. Yeah, and tell it, I want to be a family again. And the new job could be, I just want us to be happy.
Yeah. Find
I,
happiness in one thing a day.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's amazing how it all works. I remember working with this one client and I did a parts therapy and she pulled me aside and she said, I had this weird experience and I thought I was kind of going crazy. And I'm like, well, what was it? And she said, well, when I was visualizing, I was in that garden and I was talking to my inner child And you said all, any parts that are listening that want to come together now or later in the future, you're all welcome. I love you all. I appreciate you all.
Mhm.
She said, I saw 10 little kids running out from the bushes going, yay, 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 jumping around me. And she said, like, is that normal? And I was like, yes, that's beautiful. You had these 10 parts that were on the fence and finally took you serious.
Right, right. That's amazing when people get that because it anchors them in to
Yes.
the possibilities of all of this. You know, I just want to bring up something too that people can work on that invites a different identity for them is, we've been trained as a, maybe not so much in the last couple generations, but posture, right? But it's not posture just for the fact of aligning your spine and whatever. There's something about if you're creating this new identity, if you're clearing, watch how your body moves. Like when you stand and walk, are you leaning forward a little bit? Or are you centered? You're pulled back and you're in you're in your hips, you're in your body. Do you walk like that? Because it changes the whole dynamics of how your body feels.
Right.
Watching your posture in a way feels like it anchors it in, even if you're not doing anything else. It'll evoke what needs to come forward because you're focusing on something that's different than who you've been.
Well, it's like a lot of people when their shoulders are like turned
Yeah,
forward, they're hiding. Yeah, and so, and once they clear it, the shoulders go more back, the chest opens up.
yeah.
Yeah, the dynamics is amazing. And so it leads me into my next question is, are there any tools or techniques you would recommend to the listeners?
For their body or in general.
Let's say with their body, because we're talking about, their body, and then if there's anything in general you want to add, please share.
So the two things that I find that are more prevalent with people that I work with on the medical end of it is water intake and not water that has chlorine in it. So it's a healthy water, it's a vibrant water, whether you have to do a filter or whatever, that comes up and enough water. And then there's some people that are drinking like a gallon or two a day, thinking that, but they're washing away their
Yeah,
minerals, they're washing away their enzymes.
yeah.
So it's a balanced amount of water. And people will say, oh, well, I don't crave water. But when you start to drink it, you'll crave it. So it's that hydration. We are 70, 80% water. And in any processes that we're doing, even as an empath, right? When you take on something that isn't even yours, when you hydrate enough with the intention to flush, you will. So water is important. And then the second one is a multi-mineral, getting your electrolytes or whatever, because our minerals will create our vitamins. And so it's those, a lot of times it's B12. Like those are the three that feel like they really are a foundation for a healthy body. That is something that we can do for it. Movement, but creativity in movement as well. People are allergic to the word exercise a lot.
And kids
Oh
exercise
God, I
all the
gotta
time.
exercise. Yeah, I gotta exercise. No, you need to creatively move. If you like walking outside in nature, if you like hiking, it's not about exercise. It's about loving what you do and being involved in the movement, stretches, um, dancing, just put on music for 10 minutes and dance if you enjoy doing that. Finding the joy in movement, you know. Aside from that, is the journaling with a Ho'oponopono to just get your body aligned if there's been any trauma that's happened or accidents or any of that, surgeries, bring that forward. It's really about bringing yourself together because the time that we are in right now, we are open to having a new identity. Like we're just not waking up. We are developing a new identity. So bringing in the alignment of all our pieces so that when that comes forward, when we come forward, when we can stand whole in our body, then all those pieces come together and there is a new identity. You're not in your childhood anymore. You're not in your teenage years. You're not raising children. And, you're in a different place now that you can
Right.
really step forward. And some of those missions that we came in with may be either completed or there's a new possibility for you. And that's the exciting part of this timeline is that we can create the next mission. Just because you think you're done doesn't mean you're done. What do you want to do? Do you want to be in service? Do you want to be an artist? Do you want to just go on vacation and love life? Like what is it that you want to do without judgment or without criticism and no boundaries to it?
Yeah. Well, and a lot, I remember working with one lady that um was retired but was really, really stuck. And I said, well, and the intuitive hit I got was that she just needs to align to joy. I mean, that should be the whole joy of being retired is have fun, enjoy life, all of that. It doesn't, you don't have to look at it as, well, I have to have a job to be
Mhm.
fulfilled and enjoy life. And but when it clicked in her head and she got it, she was like, you're exactly right. You're exactly, she just kept, there was the idea or the concept that she was stuck on. And I'm
Mhm.
like, retirement is a joyful time. You should be celebrating it. If you want to work, you can work, that's fine, but find something that you enjoy. Don't get a job just because you want to fill the time. Have it be a job you love to do. It could be like you said, volunteering.
Yeah.
There's so many things a person can do that is, giving back and giving you satisfaction and giving you joy. It doesn't have to give you a paycheck. I mean, if you don't need it, you don't need it.
No, I would encourage people too that, it's not just when you retire. You need that balance in your life. If you
Yeah,
are doing something that you are invested in your career, you've been doing it for 30 years, you're not really happy with it. You need something else in your life that balances that.
yeah,
Something creative or something that you enjoy doing, bringing love into your life again so that it balances that. Or otherwise, you're heavy on one side and you're lopsided and you will attract what's not healthy for you.
right. Well, even gardening is a form of exercise. Like, let's say you retire and you've always wanted this beautiful garden, but you never
Right.
had time. Well, now you have time. You
Yeah.
can landscape it, you can plan it, you can, make it whatever you want. Think of it as it's a blank slate,
Right.
and you have opportunities. Well, and we see kids playing all the time, and that's exercise. So we kind of, as we get older, there is, I would say, sort of a disconnect of exercising because you can go dancing. You could
Yeah.
you could clean the house. You could stretch. You could walk around a lake. You could go hiking. There's so many things. You could ride a bike, and riding a bike can be fun, and that's exercise. It doesn't have to be in a gym.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be at all.
It could be a
Looking at what
casual
you
bike
might have,
ride.
right. At what you might have enjoyed as a child
Yeah.
and don't look at the age.
Yes.
Like, yes, you can do that. Well, let me try it, as a being curious, let me try it.
Yeah.
Rather than, no, I can't do that. I'm too old, or I don't have a bike, or I don't
Yeah.
have anybody to ride with, or I live on the side of a mountain, It's like,
Yeah, well, they come up with excuses or, oh, I love to dance, but I wouldn't go dance in public anymore. Well, you could dance in your living room.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There's plenty of YouTubes out there. My grandkids are always dancing to something out there, and it's pretty fun.
That's so awesome. So to wrap things up, Darlene, where can people find you?
They can go to Soul Union, SOULUNION.com, which has everything on there of under media and what I offer as far as services. They can also email me at my full name, so Darlene VanDGrift at gmail.com.
Awesome. And I'm going to create a blog post with all your social media links and everything on there. So if anyone needs to get a hold of you, they can find you that
Great.
that way as well. So I am so happy that we had this conversation, Darlene. You're a gift to this world, and I'm really blessed to get to connect and meet you again.
Well, thank you for doing this podcast.
Thank you.
You're a whirlwind of information, so I look forward to connecting at some later point.
Yes, the same as well. So you
Okay.
have a fabulous rest of your day, and I look forward to connecting again soon. You
All
take
right. You take care. All right.
Okay. All right. Bye.
Bye.